Wow, it's been a long time, but here we are again with another video. So this video is titled Set Up Your Mail Server. So we'll be looking at Postfix, Dovecot, ClamAV and Rspamd for the mail filtering part, and let's get to it. So, okay, first thing that we want to do is we want to get started with the setup of the server. So one of the things I want to try and do now is I'm going to try to keep these videos under 25 minutes. The reason for 25 minutes is Pomodoro. So if you guys don't know, it's a time tracking technique where you have to focus for 25 minutes on your work on a particular task. And the idea is that we want to finish one of these scripts in 25 minutes. So what we're going to do now is just internet site, nice defaults, and now we're just going to wait for this thing to install. Okay, just did 50%, 60, 70, busy with the setup part. Okay, so let's get to configuring files in a little bit. Okay, there we go. Almost done. So yeah, one of the things I can do, and I'll probably try and do in the future, is skip these parts in the actual video and then maybe just have a timer there that shows you the 25 minutes. At the moment I don't want to particularly cut any parts because of the whole 25 minutes thing. So I want to see if we can actually make it in 25 minutes. Okay, so let's see. So okay, so what we want to do now is set mail locations to maildir. So by default it normally comes out with the mailbox set up as a file, but the newer version or the newer way of doing it is actually to store each mail as a file in the mail directory, and that way you don't get things like file locking, etc. for when trying to deliver mail. So what we're going to do now is set up an LMTP. This is local mail transfer protocol, and what this does, this allows Postfix to send Dovecot the mails directly instead of writing them to the file, and then Dovecot having to read the file. Okay, so because we're on a timer, we're going to try and go quickly. So let's see. So mailserve. So this allows Dovecot to move files around. Okay, so we want to change the contents of this entire file to this. Okay, and this is used for things like for spam or virus detection in mails. And then next thing we want to do is we want to add this to the end of Postfix. So what this does, this allows Postfix to use Dovecot as the authentication server, and then also sets the mailbox and the virtual transport to the LMTP of Dovecot, so Dovecot can pick up the mails from the LMTP protocol instead of the mail directory, instead of Postfix dumping it in the mail directory. Let's see. So other thing we have to do, I think there's probably sort it for now. Okay, so other thing we have to do now is make this a bit easier. Okay, so we're looking for the auth user DB, and then we're going to set this section to this, and this provides a socket for Postfix to talk to. Okay, let's see. So next thing we need to do is set our Postfix. So we're just setting now as an identity map. So what happens is that for a particular Postfix user, in this case Dovecot, Postfix and root, if we're opening up the mail database, it will map the system user to the PG user called mail reader. So we're going to set up that now. Now we're just going to set up the connection settings or the authorized connection settings for Postfix. So I'm going to copy that in there. Now we're going to restart Postfix. Now you want to log in to Postfix, create a user mail database, and then exit that, enter as this user. Because we set up all the mail web stuff previously, it should be all sorted. Okay, so we can exit Postfix again. We need to add a virtual user. In this case, I'm just going to make it something a simple-ish password. But in a production system, you'd want to use a proper password. And then what we're going to do for now is just put that in there. And then put fufu localized. You want to get in here as that. Set user. I think that we actually need to take one of those out. That part. Okay, so let's see. Now we want to do is set up a user for storing the mailboxes. Okay, so this is a two-liner. Okay. No idea this part is slowing us down. There we go. Set up the mailboxes. Set the permissions on those. Now we need to set up Dovecot to use Postgres for the authentication part. I'll use it as an authentication provider, and then another thing we want to do is open up this file. I think we placed the file contents, yeah. We want to do that, and then I don't think we actually particularly need these parts anymore, and I think maybe the alias part still. Okay, so let's see. So let's go with that, and we need to create for the Postfix main. I think we've got an alias mapped up here that we can take out, and then okay, so let's see, and remove the existing ID map, so we just did that. Okay, so the other thing is also to set up the mailboxes for the user, so to have some nice decent mailboxes, or default mailboxes, sorry. And we basically did everything else, so let's maybe try just a quick run command. Okay, there we go. So that was di, and then curly brackets to delete everything inside the curly brackets, so then we just replace that with that. Okay, and then we have to set up Postfix to send mails to a mail filtering system. In this case, we're going to use Rspamd. And that's just what this does. It basically tells Postfix that when you get mail, send it to you first. It sends it to that service. The service sends it back with some new mail headers, like whether it's called spam or not. And then, okay, so update Dovecot protocol. So we di curly brackets again, replace that, and then what we want to do is let's actually just delete everything in this file. G to get back up. There we go. Okay, and then we want to go this file, and then let's replace the file contents with the following. So G, okay. That's that. Okay, so let's see. Then replace the file contents with the following, copy that. So you guys know I'm using Notion for the actual scripty part that I'm following here. Okay, so let's see, we make this folder that stores all the sieve settings or whatever you call it, sieve settings, I don't know. Okay, so word line, copy that. So these two do the, look, I should probably have put them in order, but the idea is that the one is the sieve settings for what to do when you get this particular type of mail, and the other one is a command that gets just Rspamd that tells it that this thing is either actually spam or not. So the idea is when a user moves it in or out of its spam folder, then Rspamd kind of updates itself and learns that for that particular user what is actually spam or not. Okay, so let's say report ham. Okay, and then what we want to do is of the dimensions for this file. And then, okay, so the other thing that we installed previously was something called Untitled, which is a DNS caching system or local, so it does it queries on your behalf and then just caches it locally. The idea being is Rspamd as part of its checkups to check whether a mail server that sent the email is valid or not. It does a bunch of DNS queries. We don't always want to go out, so just caching, the caching part makes it more efficient. We don't spam the DNS service upstream. Okay, so these things are for mail checking, so this uses things like DNS records and stuff to check whether the mails are legitimate or not. Put it more this way, it's more for your mails that you send out. So the other mail service that receives your mail looks at these things like the DMARC, the SPF records and stuff like that to try and figure out whether the mail server that you are using is actually a legitimate mail server. Let's see, so this is for the classified, trying to learn whether something is spam or not, and then we need to set up the mail filter header stuff for the spam. Okay, that's not what we want to put in there. Okay, so then the next thing is the antivirus stuff. So this is to scan the mails with a virus checker to check if the mails are contain viruses basically. Okay, so let's see, we are on 13 minutes at the moment. Another thing I also want to do is, let's see, go from this way, there we go, and then another thing is also want to remove the local socket part. The reason why we're doing this is because while the Unix socket port is probably better, it's also somewhat of a pain to set up, in the sense that you have to deal with things like user permissions and whatnot, and depending on what you're using, it might not always work properly. Like that's one of the problems I had, was with, when I set up the stuff, was with trying to deal with the file permissions for that. Okay. Let's see. So we don't want that in there. What I actually should have done with this is make it one long command with where things run one after the other. Okay, sorry, that also goes out. There we go. I'm not quite sure what decided to put these brackets in here. I think it's because I copied the script off of a different Markdown editor. Somewhere I decided it should actually put brackets in here, which is somewhat annoying. I'll do that later where I make it one long list of commands. For now, what we can do while we wait for that is just to take out the other square brackets. Okay. Square brackets are taken out. So then the other thing is I'm probably going to skip this part is a Roundcube. So Roundcube is a web-based mail reader, so I think something like Gmail that you can store locally. The reason why I don't particularly want to cover it is that Roundcube is like a whole different thing on its own, like a whole different video, because there's plugins and things like that to set it up securely. So I don't want to kind of just go halfway and set it up and go like, okay, well, you have to do all this other work. It's not kind of the point of these videos. I'd much rather actually, if there's demand for it, actually do a whole video on Roundcube and setting up with two-factor auth and all that stuff. But for a different time. Okay, so what we're now doing, what it's now doing is basically just downloading all the virus definitions for ClamAV. So what we're doing is this unofficial ClamAV signatures. The idea being the ones that ship with ClamAV aren't particularly good, and using this unofficial ClamAV signatures, we get better virus checks. And it's basically downloading all those things now, and it's still going to take a time. But again, if you just landed here, I don't necessarily want to skip the stuff because we're trying to do it in a sort of Pomodoro style where we go through the whole process in 25 minutes, including all the weighty bits in between. So, okay, so now we've got that. Okay, so those things are for the background tasks, so these things run on their own, we don't have to manage them. Like I said, we're going to script Roundcube. Parts, check that, certbot. Okay, so if you want to do certbot, is that the idea is that you use Roundcube and Apache and Nginx to get a certificate, and then to get this take that certificate and then to change the Postfix configs and the Dovecot configs to use that particular certificate so that you get SSL support over SMTP and IMAP for when users log in and try to get their emails or when they try to send emails. And that's kind of where you put the certificates for Dovecot and where you put them for Postfix. But we're running on a local system here, so we're not going to do that. What we are going to do is we're going to go straight to the Rspamd stuff for checking the for one, in this case it's one. So part of also the mail filters is that you can add like mail headers for outbound emails. So what this bot does like adds a private key to the mails that go outbound from your mail server, and that private key lives on your server, and you publish the public key via a DNS record. And then mail servers that receive mail from your domain check that public key in the DNS record against the signature on the server that was put there using that private key, and then if it matches, they go, okay, well, yeah, we know definitely that this mail server sent out this email. So if your mail server is trusted by the other mail server, then it goes, yeah, okay, I know this mail server, it's fine, I'll accept this mail. And as part of like, if you look up all the different settings and things for mail servers, is that as part of the checks, they might actually check for this record. If it fails, the basic goes, I don't know you, I don't accept the email. So we just put it there for other mail servers to find us more trustworthy. Okay, so as part of that is that we have to basically generate private public key, and this is what I did with this Rspamd admin GMI key generator. I generated a key and then added it, and then you'll see this is kind of more or less the format of the DNS record that we have to add. So this is at the text field, it's a text record, and then when you add it to the DNS records, you just have to kind of remove these quotes. Anyway, you'll see down at the bottom of this thing there's a bunch of references, and I'll try and post this somewhere, and the link will be in the description. You'll find a bunch of references, go more in depth into the DNS part of it. But what we're doing now is we're just trying to set up the signing. Okay, so that we've done. Okay, so Now that we can sign emails, the next thing that we have to do is do this submission spot. So the way that this works is that your PostfX actually opens up two SMTP ports if you set it up as a mail sender receivers one. The one is for users, authorized users to send emails out from their mailboxes. The other SMTP port is for inbound emails to your users. So in the case of submissions, this would be for users, authorized users, to send out mails to other mail servers. And where the SMTP port one above here is for mails incoming from other mail servers. Okay, so now we're set up. What we're going to do is go back to the main one, main postfix, and then just add this one. And this is to kind of for, in some cases you'll need this for like prettier domain ones. So if you've got, there's a lot of how to put it, organizations or institutions, whatever, they've got like a www and then their domain, which is the website, and then they've got a mail.www, so, a mail.domain for the actual mails. And the idea is that if we do this masquerade domains, we can drop the mail part and have just the domain, somebody at domain dot whatever. So we just, it's prettier emails. And that's why we put that there. Okay, so let's get IMAP. There we go. Okay, so for IMAP login. Okay, so what we're doing here is that this is more for outbound ones if you want to do it. What this does, it says that for local IMAP, and since you send it, you're trying to read emails off of the server, so you'll use it for things like the roundkeep that I spoke about when you have like a local mail reader. We say, well, for the server itself, IMAP, standard IMAP is fine, but for anybody else, is that we'll need SSL if you want to connect to IMAP. So you can securely get your mails, and then the service count is just for how many, I think it's like a worker thing, how many people can connect at one time. You'll see it actually gets, if you want to pause it, it gets, the whole description of what it does is over there. Okay, so, but not interested at the moment in that. So let's see, so service, IMAP login, I think it was up here. Submission login, okay, here we go. So that's what that does, but I'm not going to use it for now. Like I said, it's more for the SSL stuff. And then if you're running a firewall, you'll need 443 for the SSL part. You need 25 for the incoming emails. You need, I think, 587 for outgoing emails that a user sending, and then 993 for the IMAP SSL. And that's if you're running a firewall. So part of this is that I assume that this like firewall stuff and SSH and everything was set up properly beforehand before we actually got to this video. And then what we need to do is, okay, maybe just for completeness sake, let's just do this part. So you see that actually works. Okay, so then what we can do is copy that and put that in there. And then we can restart Apache, which we haven't done because we're not running Roundcube. ClamAV for the virus checking, Postfix for the mail sending relay part, Rspamd for the spam and virus detection, and then Dovecot for mail receipt. And then I talk a little bit about the DNS stuff here. And then another thing what we do is just that for checking stuff, we double check stuff. So part of that is we just want to make sure that we're listening on the right addresses. So the things that need to be local stay local, and the things that need to be outbound are outbound. So local fine, submission port, yeah, that needs to be out. SSH in this case, yes. So like I said, that I haven't actually done the SSH part here. I'm assuming that it's been done by you, but like the idea is if you're running SSH, don't run it on the default 22. Anyway. Postgres, yeah, that's fine. SMTP, that needs to be global, and then these are just the kind of the TCP IP6 complements of those, and then this is for checking the mail spot. So the way that we check a mail thing, there's apparently these special strings that you can use for checking mails, and then this is what they look like, and then the idea being is if you send that, you'll get, okay. Let's see. Oh, that was all good. That was my cell phone. Let me just silence it. Yeah. So like I said, it's been a while since I made these videos. I'm not very professional at the moment. Not that I was before. So now we're gonna have to go back and figure out why I broke this thing, which is kind of making a mess of our time. Let's see, we'll probably try and finish in like half an hour-ish. Okay, so let's see. So if we go to journal F and then see why we broke something. Oh, do you know? Well, I think a file message file private auth. So Dovecot 196. Okay, let's just set number, see what's going on. So apparently around, I think 86 is something that we broke here. Okay, so this is what, okay, so there we go. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so let's try this again. So let's copy that. So Squawks is just kind of a cool way to check emails. Okay, it's still broken. Interesting. Don't think it's actually in that file. So let's check where was it that we had the archive part. So it was in here. Okay, let's see some special case, archive. Inbox separator, drafts, mailbox, sent, trash, junk, archive. That's managed to everything called for more archive unespecially because. Okay, let's just remove that from now. See what happens. Okay, so we can get through the video in time. Okay, so you'll see what happens is that I've got a G2 pattern here, which means that it was actually sent out to Rspamd. Rspamd came back and said, well, it has a G2 pattern, and they just literally quit and said, I'm not accepting this email, I don't want it because it's spam. Okay, and that's what that G2 pattern thing is. We can test the mouse over here. And then another thing we can do is at the end, if we go back, is we can do like a virus test. So the idea is that we have to download this thing. And you'll see there that it says virus found, and it said also the unofficial part, so we know that the unofficial stuff worked. And then the idea is that we can send something to ourselves that's legitimate, and then we can do, sorry, that's the references. So almost at the end, and then you'll see that it's got all the Rspamd stuff, it's got the ARC stuff, it's got the there, it's got the DMCI stuff, it's got received everything. So we know that everything kind of worked. I'm not sure about the archive thing, why that suddenly failed. It might be because I wrote this script like 3 weeks ago, and I've been trying to record it over and over again, and it never really just worked. So I've had to kind of leave it because of work reasons and all kinds of other stuff. Like I became a dad 3 months ago, if you're interested in it. Anyway, so the idea is just we can go through the logs, we can make sure that, like, it actually found the G2 pattern in here, but we know it did. And kind of also kind of trying to figure out, understand what it did, if there's any errors or anything bad happened while it tried to process the mouse. I'll leave that to you to kind of go through it and figure out what all these things different means. Like some of them I know, some of them I don't. Like there you can see there's a force reject ClamAV one. If you go a bit more above, like read more lines, you'll see that the GG one's in there as well. And there's the one that we actually received properly. We can see base classifier, skip classification. The idea being is we don't have enough emails here to actually tell the classifier whether we passed or failed. Okay, so, and you also see I've dumped a bunch of references here about where these found things. So the idea being is that I kind of want to put these things in a quick guide to get you up started, but if you really want to put this thing into production, that it's really best if you actually go through everything and understand what does what, and you'll probably find that I made some mistakes here or there. Like for instance, Postfix is a very complicated thing. There's lots and lots of settings for all kinds of authorizations and maps. Like we could get deeper into like to the whole Postgres stuff as well. I can put tables for mapping domains and everything in Postgres, but I want to keep this like under 25 minutes. But the idea being is this should work-ish. Like I actually deployed a version of something like this onto DigitalOcean. Doesn't look like I got hacked at all. I did see that people tried to send emails through me, but the moment I asked for like the auth and passwords and stuff, they just immediately try to stop. So just one last thought on that is that I did try to send outbound emails from that sort of cloud-based instance of all of this. Is that Google marked it as spam originally, but it might just have been because my SPF records haven't properly propagated yet, and the moment I marked it as being okay emails that I send myself, is that Google had no problems accepting it. Microsoft accepted the emails, but it never actually got to my inbox because it didn't find me trustworthy enough, and Apple just flat out refused to talk to me. So the idea with that, or the thought that I want to get across, is that because of things like spam and people sending viruses and stuff through emails, is that the email ecosystem is a very sort of trust-based ecosystem, and the idea is that if you start a spin up your own mail server, and even if you do all the DNS stuff, which I did, I mean, like I got all green ticks on Google, and when I checked my emails, it's like everything was fine, is that the big mail providers aren't necessarily going to try to find you trustworthy, and if they don't find you trustworthy, they're not going to want to talk to you. So, I mean, one of the things you can try and do is proxy the emails through one of those large or larger mail providers, is that either via SMTP or whatever. But anyway, the idea with this is that if, like a lot of applications, they might need a mail server as part of the architecture, or you might have some sort of internal mail server or something that can send emails to a third-party service that you can set up, where you can set up your mail service being trustworthy. And the idea is that I've always wanted to actually have a deeper dive into mail servers, and so I took the opportunity with this, and I hope you find this video helpful. Maybe you find some use in this, or maybe you just found it interesting. I'm going to try to post more videos on a more regular basis now. I'm going to try to go for like every once a week or once every 2 weeks. And if you want to see more, subscribe. If you like the video, if you find it useful, give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one.